I've heard it said that whenever writing an informative article, the top of the article should be the most dense with the most important information. The things that the reader wants to know should be concentrated in the headline, in the subtitle, and then in the first few paragraphs, with the bottom of the article populated with maybe less important details. And part of the art of being a journalist is to decide which of the details should go at the top of the article and which should go at the bottom. With that in mind, I'd like to take a quick look at this article on the BBC News website about the United States women's football team, which is soccer in America, but we call it football, and how they have tried to go to court over the difference in pay between their team and the male counterpart, the United States men's football team. But make no mistake, this is a story about the sport where you kick the black and white ball around the field with your feet.
Ball, ball, ball. Footy, footy, footy. Ball, ball, ball. Football.
Whatever you call that in your country. It doesn't really matter for the story though, so you can imagine that they're talking about any sport. As articles on the BBC often do, this article starts with a little video interview, just a little clip to put this article into context. Although I think this story, that this clip is from, is actually different from this new development that's happening now on the 2nd of May, or actually this was yesterday, but it's broadly on the same story. I won't play the clip now because I don't know what the copyright issues are with it, but this lady, who's a footballer, is talking about the language that was used in the person who was justifying why the pay of the female team is lower than the pay of the male team. And there was something to do with the difference in strength and skill between the female and male teams, justifying the pay gap. And while the United States women's football team might be very skilled and very athletic, certainly more so than the general population of men or women, I think there's no doubt, in my mind at least, that if they played their male counterparts, the United States male team, if they played them 100 times, I don't think that the female team would win even once, and that's just a case of biology, unfortunately. But moving on from that, there's actually a point that I wanted to make more specifically about this particular article. If we look through the first couple of lines, we can see that the I can't remember what this is called, the subheading says the United States women's football team's bid for equal pay has been dismissed by a court, with the judge rejecting the players' claims they were underpaid compared to the men. So that's sort of summing up the article, and that's fair enough. It gives you a little bit more detail from what the title says, the headline. Underneath that, it says the lawsuit was filed by 28 women's national team players last year against the US Soccer Federation, USSF. They've been seeking $66 million in damages under the Equal Pay Act. This is all good detail. This is fine. We then go on to Molly Levinson, who I believe is the woman in this video. She says that they planned to appeal against the decision. We are shocked and disappointed. We will not give up our hard work for equal pay. We then get another quote. We are confident in our case and steadfast in our commitment to ensuring that girls and women who play this sport will not be valued as lesser just because of their gender. We then get a quote from Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic nominee for the US presidential election this year. He told the team not to give up this fight, adding, "This is not over. To US soccer, equal pay now, or else when I'm president, you can go elsewhere for World Cup funding." Okay, this is getting to be very... This is the kind of information I'd expect to see at the bottom of an article. This is not adding any extra information. This is on the main story. It's just telling us what Joe Biden said, which is a bit weird. Then we get this line about the federal judge, Gary Klausner, who allowed the players' case for unfair treatment in travel, housing, and medical support to go to trial, which is set for the 16th of June in LA. Giving its ruling, the court said, the women's team has been paid more on both a cumulative and an average per game basis than the men's team over the class period. Obviously, I have my own bias here about how I would write this article, but it seems criminal to me that this line about why the court ruled the way it did should be this far down in the article. This should be above, definitely above what Joe Biden said, and even possibly above what the spokesperson said. This is one of the most important pieces of information, I think, objectively, in the whole article, and it's about halfway down below what Joe Biden thought about it. It's just so bizarre. This whole article is about the court's ruling and this claim being dismissed in court, and yet the reason why it was dismissed is only mentioned briefly, and it's halfway down in the article. We have to first hear about how disappointed everybody is about this decision. And the rest of the article is just about how disappointed everyone is about this decision, about how great the women's team is, and about how they are still going to continue fighting this case in the future. I had a look around on the internet to try and find more details about this judge's ruling, and on the NPR website they have an article about this. It's an American website, so perhaps that's why they have more details. It's more of a story in America, of course, than it is here. But they pretty much say all the same things, have a few more details, with slightly different wording, of course. But at the end they actually have a full document of the actual ruling notes of what the judge said, basically. And I'll leave a link to that in the description. It's pretty interesting. It's got a lot of sort of details in there, a lot of sort of boring stuff about the way footballers are played. But I'll leave a link to that in the description if you're interested. But mostly this video isn't actually about the court case or about the pay gap. It's more about the reporting of this story, which I think was pretty bad, considering it's the only story about the subject on the BBC website. The purpose of this article is to inform the reader about the details of this case, and yet I think it does quite badly on that front. But I can't say exactly that it's failed completely, because it does include some of the relevant details, and the fact that the details are ordered in a way that I'm unhappy with perhaps would sound quite petty, but I think it's an evidence of bias in this particular case. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please leave your comments below, as always. I do read all of the comments, although I don't respond to all of them. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you again soon, I hope.
Footy, footy, footy. When the game's beginning, all the crowd starts singing. When the goals start scoring, it becomes less boring.